For some stupid reason, Donald Trump and his MAGA allies keep publicly asking Americans whether they're better off in 2024 under Joe Biden compared to 2020 under Donald Trump. And President Biden's campaign put together a devastating new ad which definitively answers this question. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bell before you go. I'd greatly appreciate it. All right, friends, we have several clips to look at in this video. I am perplexed that Trump and his MAGA allies like Sean Hannity and Jesse Waters on the Fox Propaganda Network keep asking this question. But it makes sense. They're banking on the short-term memory of the American people and the cultish inclination towards revisionist history of MAGA, okay? But we live in the digital age, and we have the footage, we have the articles, we have the headlines, we have all the tools at our disposal to remind the American people of just how miserable life was under Donald Trump in 2020. And Joe Biden has done just that by collating it together in a devastating new ad. And hopefully more ads like this will continue down the road because Trump and Hannity and others keep asking this question. Now, I actually want to play a clip, a short clip, 10 seconds, just as a reminder of a seemingly perplexed Sean Hannity. Just, you know, what no one wants to address 2024 versus 2020. Why doesn't Biden want to talk about this?
Oh, to me, the one thing they don't want to talk about is, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Because there's no good answer for them.
Actually, I think President Biden and the Democrats, I know I am, are perplexed why you think you want to talk about it, Sean, because actually there is a good answer to that question. And thus we have this new 40-second ad from Joe Biden. We're going to play the ad and unpack it together.
And then I see the disinfectant. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside?
And on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your response to this crisis?
I'd rate it a 10. I think we've done a great job.
What do you say to Americans who are watching you right now who are scared?
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say. Yeah, no, I don't take responsibility at all. We're doing, I think, really, really well.
I'll tell you what. How? 1,000 Americans are dying a day.
They are dying. That's true. And it is what it is.
Yes, we are, in fact, objectively, by every metric, better off in 2024 under President Biden's leadership than in 2020 under Donald Trump's. Now, again, I understand we have a relative collective short-term memory in this country, and it will take effort by the Biden administration, by the Biden campaign, by Democrats, by their surrogates, by liberals and leftists and progressives, by you and me, all of us, reminding those who may have forgotten or may have moved so far past it or may have blocked it out due to trauma, that yes, we were far worse off under Trump in 2020. Now, there was several parts in that 40-second video that really jumped out at me, but the one that probably jumped out the most was when Donald Trump had this interaction with a reporter asking a good faith, important question and actually teeing up an opportunity for Trump, the then president of the United States, to spread a message of hope and confidence and national unity. And this is the full exchange. This is how Trump took that moment and squandered it.
What happens? We have nothing to lose. You know the expression? What the hell do you have to lose? Okay?
So what do you say to Americans who are nearly 200 dead? What do you say to the Americans who are scared, though? I guess nearly 200 dead, 14,000 who are sick, millions, as you witnessed, who are scared right now. What do you say to Americans who are watching you right now who are scared?
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say. Go ahead. I
think
think it's a very nasty question, and I think it's a very bad signal that you're putting out to the American people. The American people are looking for answers, and they're looking for hope.
So give them answers and give them hope. That question was it wasn't a gotcha question. It wasn't a bad faith question. It wasn't a nasty question. It was an opportunity, which quite frankly, you didn't deserve given your corruption, malfeasance, and stupidity, to actually redirect to use the bully pulpit of the presidency to motivate Republican politicians, Republican executives, Republican voters to take the virus seriously, to unite with Democrats, and to tackle this national crisis. Donald Trump squandered it because just reflexively, he is a mean, narcissistic, insecure person. Also, no other things that he said in the ad like, I take no responsibility. Nothing like that. Can you imagine the flack that Joe Biden would correctly get if he ever said something like that during a national crisis, which he never would say something like that? Donald Trump was gross, despicable, incompetent. And I want to play another clip here from Chris Hayes, which kind of piggybacks off this MSNBC commentator, because he reminds people, before he juxtaposes what Trump said versus what was going on at the time, he reminds people about how Trump calculatingly, deliberately deceived the American people with his public rhetoric compared to what he knew at the time, what Trump understood the coronavirus to be privately versus what he was saying publicly. And this is part of an ongoing segment, which I really appreciate from Chris Hayes, which is Were You Better Off 4 years ago? And he's doing it apparently basically every day. And this one is from yesterday, March 20th.
And as we now know, Donald Trump knew how bad things were going to get. Remember, he told Bob Woodward, before anyone else knew this, in private, the virus could be transmitted through the air and that it would be difficult to contain. He told him it was more strenuous than the flu and that he was going to play it down so as not to create a panic. Knowing all that, knowing what he knows, take a listen to the reporting from the evening news versus the story being told by the President of the United States at the time, Donald Trump, in his 90-minute news conference that afternoon.
Breaking news tonight, the coronavirus forcing millions more Americans into virtual lockdown. Over 75 million people in New York, California, Illinois, and Connecticut ordered to stay at home.
I think we're doing a better job than hopefully most, if not all. We're doing a very effective job, but we'll know better in 14 or 15 days.
Fear on the front lines. ER doctors saying we are on the verge of a medical disaster. Healthcare workers' lives at risk.
My message to the American people is that there is a very low incidence of death. If you get it, if you happen to get it, it is highly unlikely. It's looking like it's getting to a number that's much smaller than people originally thought in terms of the ultimate problem, which would be death.
The staggering rise in unemployment. People out of work lining up for free meals.
We have a tremendous economy. We do numbers like no other country has ever done before. Number one in the world, if you go back 2 weeks, and still, obviously, but if you go back 2 weeks, number one in the world by far. That money comes back to us very rapidly.
Continued frustration over testing for the virus. Most states struggle to meet demand. A newly opened site in Paramus, New Jersey today filled to capacity and forced to close within 4 hours.
You're hearing very positive things about testing. We're having these private labs have come in. They've been really fantastic. And we also have a great system for the future because, as I said, we inherited, meaning this administration, an obsolete, broken system.
With supplies and medicine running low, hospitals are now preparing to make terrible decisions about which patient has a better chance of survival and which patient may be denied the care they need.
And folks, it goes on like this, but you're understanding the juxtaposition where Trump was actively lying to the American people during an election year and lying to them in ways that, had he told the truth, might have saved lives. As a matter of fact, I brought this up before, and I want to remind you, I want to leave you with this. After Donald Trump lost re-election, after he left office, Deborah Burke, who was the coordinator of the White House coronavirus task force under Trump, was interviewed. And this is what she had to say with respect to Trump's mismanagement of the pandemic. She says, quote, "I look at it this way. The first time we have an excuse. There were about 100,000 deaths that came from that original surge," Burke said. "All of the rest of them, in my mind, could have been mitigated or decreased substantially." No one blames coronavirus on Donald Trump. He didn't create it. But Donald Trump was morally, civically, politically obligated as the nation's chief executive to manage the pandemic to the best of his ability with all the powers at his disposal. He failed spectacularly. He was inconsistent. He was dishonest. He was stupid. And therefore, it is completely fair to blame him for the pandemic. And that happened in 2020. Donald Trump was president in 2020. Joe Biden managed the pandemic infinitely better when he assumed office. He presided over the vaccine rollout and presided over 200 million vaccinations in 100 days, got the vast majority of American adults vaccinated, which allowed the country to open back up safely. He presided over the economic recovery, which has exceeded every other advanced economy on earth. It has defied expectations time and time again. We have avoided recession. We have avoided economic catastrophe. That happened under Joe Biden's leadership. So to answer the question, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Yes. Even if you're not doing well today, because of course we live in a country of 330 million people. There are still people to this day struggling. No one's denying that. But for the vast majority of Americans, they are infinitely better off today than they were in 2020. And all we have to do is just remind the American people that. All we have to do is do what Joe Biden did in this ad. Donald, I'm glad you asked, and answer the question. Let me know what you think in the comments.